Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tiny Blue Games. My name, of course, is Seasour Chris, and today we are talking about the top 5 things I noticed coming back to WoW for BFA. Now, these changes don't necessarily come in the expansion, but are all parts of previous expansions that really have an impact on how you play the game now. So the first thing I want to talk about is the world quests. World quests are a very cool way of keeping zones very at the top of mind for players and making it so that old zones aren't really left behind in the dust, which is sort of something we've seen happen in other expansions. I'm just going through some of the Legion areas right now showing world quests. There are these little icons, sort of dragons around them, or just like regular exclamation marks on the map. And when you mouse over them, you'll see the kind of rewards that they do offer. At the bottom of your map, certain areas will reward you with a additional reward if you do a certain amount of quests in that area, which is really cool. And it's a very nice way to sort of switch up your gameplay from day to day, because the world quests themselves will reset at a certain amount of time. Each one sort of has a time left and a countdown till reset, which will give a different quest and a different reward for it. They've been useful throughout all of Legion, in the pre-patch for BFA, and they will be featured in BFA as well. So it's a really cool part of the game that Blizzard obviously enjoys, and I think it's a really great addition as well. Just being able to continue using areas of the world and not just leaving them behind, because so many MMOs have that issue where they make a really cool place and it's super cool for that expansion, but then it doesn't really matter anymore, and it just gets really sad to see. So that's a really cool thing that's added. An additional thing that I thought was really cool was the fact that mounts are now account bound. I actually don't know when they added this. I left sort of in Cataclysm, and I don't remember it being a thing. Where, you know, my one character would have these specific mounts and they would not be on my other characters. But now when you buy a expensive mount or sort of get a really cool mount, for instance, the Sky Golem, I bought it for 100k or something off the auction house. And I thought that was going to be, you know, a pretty big investment, but the fact that it goes on to all of your alternative characters really makes it a lot more worthwhile. It really allows you to actually feel pretty good buying these expensive mounts and using them in many different places. In addition to that, a lot of the mounts have been upgraded and look really cool now. They've always looked very cool, but like, for instance, the Sky Golem, you can harvest things without demounting, which is a pretty big plus, right? So I just think it's a really cool addition that they've added. Certain mounts aren't cross-character. For instance, if you have a Paladin specific class mount, you're not going to be able to access that on other characters, from what I understand. And there are other restrictions that I might not have seen yet. But it's a really cool system. They also have a summon random mount button, which sounds like a really fun thing. As you can see, my account's pretty new at this point, so I haven't made great use of it, but it does sound like something that would be cool when you had, you know, like a pile of 300 different mounts. In addition to that, you actually get mounts when you achieve a certain number of mounts on your account. Like if you have 300 or something like that, you'll get a specific mount. I'm not actually sure if 300 is the number, but there's like, you know, 50 mounts, you'll get one, 400 and something, you'll get a different mount, and they look quite cool. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the scaling of leveling. So leveling's a bit of a sore topic actually in World of Warcraft right now, because it does take quite a while. But a really cool thing that they did change was they made it so that you can really play a lot of different zones when you're leveling. For instance, from 60 to 80, which is really the worst part of leveling at the moment, you can choose between the Outlands and Burning Crusade and Norvrend, which is really cool as it allows you to switch up how you play. Additionally to this, throughout leveling, from 1 to 60, you can go to different places. You can also queue with anyone for dungeons from like levels 10 or 15, I guess, to level 60. So you can have a large distance between you and some friends, whereas before you kind of had to be very close together to be able to do random dungeons and stuff. There is a lot bigger of a gap that can work now. So it's a lot easier for, you know, if I'm leveling up with a buddy in real life and we're not able to go on all the time at the same, you know, point, and one of us gets ahead by a fair bit, we can still queue up for dungeons and stuff. It's also really nice if you're at different levels and stuff like that. you can go and start a new zone together that'll scale for both of you and kind of do that story together. So I think that's really cool. There's also a lot of information about this throughout the dungeon, or not dungeon, the group content guide, sorry. Another thing I wanted to talk about was queuing for, well, for dungeons, you have your specific roles, which you've always had. But something that's really new and interesting is that you can actually queue for specific roles when it comes to battlegrounds, which seems kind of weird when you think about it, because like, you know, how are you going to queue for a specific role? Well, it works very much like the Dungeon Finder, whereas if you go to player versus player, you're going to have the different roles that you can check off depending on what your class can do, and you're going to wait for a queue as that role. So if you're a tank, you're going to wait until your tank roll. If you're a healer, you're going to wait till your healer roll. And what this allows Blizzard to do is make it so that hopefully the matches are a bit more equal, whereas there's like, you know, 2 healers on one side and 2 healers on the other side. Because we've all been in those matches where there's, you know, 3 healers on the Alliance and the Horde have, you know, nothing. And it's just like, it's not a fun game to be in. So this has really been a step in the right direction. Even with this system, you still have situations where there's a discrepancy in the numbers of healers and stuff like that. And I'm sure in the algorithm there's like a rule that if they've been in queue for X amount of minutes, allow it to happen anyways. But I do think it's a really cool addition. You should note though, if you queue in for a specific role, you're gonna have to play that role. You can't switch out of it in the battleground. So there is that to keep in mind. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the heirlooms. This is another thing that I noticed. It obviously depends on when you came back to WoW, or if you've played WoW your entire life. This isn't a big thing that you've probably noticed. But the way heirlooms work is really different now. You kind of buy the base heirlooms that go from 1 to 60, and then you upgrade them continuously to get up to, you know, up to level 90, and then you buy another upgrade that'll get up to like level 100, and another upgrade to 110, and then there'll be one to 120 eventually. You also don't have to buy a specific one each time you need one. Once you have them, they're kind of account wide, and you can create them from this collection area. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to worry about sending them to people or who has them on their account. It's really easy to go ahead, and I'm sorry about my alarm there. It's really easy to go ahead and just use them from the collections book. So I think that's a great addition, really. And it's really easy to see from a glance how many heirlooms you have and what heirlooms you need to fill up. There's also more heirlooms now. For instance, there's like necklaces or trinkets. Our trinkets and rings, I think, are the specific ones that I didn't ever see before. So that's pretty cool too. There's a little bit more XP to be gained from them, but specifically like trinkets and stuff like that just give you a lot more stats, which is fun. And just, you know, for people that have lots of money and lots of time, it gives them more things to do for their characters, right? So guys, those are the top 5 things. I noticed there's actually a lot more that I'll probably do in a future video, but hopefully you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching.